cold CEO can't get it up for anyone but uncontrollably love a bald girl who mistook him for patient. In the bustling heart of Chicago, where skyscrapers gleamed under the late summer sun, St. Mary's Hospital stood as a beacon of hope for the city's sick and weary. Dr. Sarah Bennett, a 32-year-old urologist with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue, navigated the hospital's crowded halls with practiced ease. Her white coat, slightly wrinkled from a long shift, fluttered as she dodged a gurney and flashed a quick smile at a passing nurse. Sarah was known for her skill in the operating room, her dedication to her patients, and her fierce commitment to Hope Haven, a local orphanage where she volunteered. The orphanage, a modest brick building on the city's west side, had been her sanctuary growing up as an adopted child, and now it was her mission to protect it. Today, though, her focus was on her clinic, where a line of patients waited their charts stacked high on her desk. Little did she know, her life was about to collide with Ethan Caldwell, the enigmatic billionaire CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, in a way that would turn her world upside down. Sarah's morning had started like any other, coffee gulped down between patient consults. A quick call to check on the kids at Hope Haven, and a heated argument with her department head, Dr. Larson, about budget cuts threatening the urology clinic. "Sarah, you're brilliant, but you're too stubborn." Dr. Larson had snapped his glasses, slipping down his nose. "If we don't get results soon, the board's shutting us down. You need to think about the team." Sarah had bristled, her hazel eyes flashing. "I'm not the one pushing false advertising to lure patients. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen." She'd stormed out, determined to prove her worth through honest work, not cheap tricks. By noon, she was back in her cramped office reviewing charts when her nurse Emily poked her head in. "Dr. Bennett, your next patient's here. He's a bit intense." Sarah raised an eyebrow, expecting another anxious patient, but nothing could have prepared her for the man who walked in. Ethan Caldwell stepped into the exam room, his tailored charcoal suit, a stark contrast to the sterile white walls. At 35, he was a towering figure with piercing blue eyes and a jawline that could cut glass. His presence screamed wealth and power, but his expression was guarded, almost wary. Sarah, unfazed by his aura, glanced at his chart blank, except for a name and a vague referral for general checkup. "Mr. Caldwell, right? Take a seat," she said, gesturing to the exam table. Ethan hesitated, his brow furrowing. "This is a mistake. I'm here for a routine physical, not whatever this is." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she scanned the chart again, noticing it had been routed to her urology clinic by error. "Well, you're in my office, and this is men's health, so unless you're here to discuss something specific, I can refer you to general medicine." Ethan's jaw tightened, a flush creeping up his neck. "I don't need that kind of checkup," he said, his voice low but firm. Sarah, sensing his discomfort, couldn't resist a smirk. "Relax, Mr. Caldwell. I've seen it all. Drop the pants, and let's make this quick." The room went silent, Ethan's eyes widening in shock, and Sarah realized she'd just told one of Chicago's most powerful men to strip in her exam room. Before Ethan could protest, Emily burst in her face, pale. "Dr. Bennett, you need to see this. It's about Hope Haven." She thrust a tablet into Sarah's hands, displaying a news article, "Caldwell Enterprises plans demolition of West Side Orphanage for new commercial district." Sarah's heart sank. Hope Haven, the place that had given her a home after her biological parents abandoned her, was under threat. She glared at Ethan, who looked genuinely confused. "You're behind this," she demanded, shoving the tablet toward him. Ethan scanned the article, his expression darkening. "This isn't finalized. It's just a proposal," he said, but Sarah wasn't listening. Her mind raced decades of memories, the kids who called her sis, the only family she'd ever known, all at risk, because of this man's company. You people think you can bulldoze lives for profit, she snapped, her voice shaking with anger. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but Sarah cut him off. Get out! I don't treat patients who destroy homes. Ethan didn't leave. Instead, he leaned forward, his voice calm but commanding. Dr. Bennett, you don't know me, and I don't know you, but I'm not the monster you think. Let's talk about this. Sarah crossed her arms, unconvinced. Talk? Your company's about to displace dozens of kids. What's there to talk about? Ethan's eyes softened, a flicker of something guilt maybe crossing his face. I didn't know about the orphanage until now. Give me a chance to look into it. Sarah scoffed, but the sincerity in his tone gave her pause. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with a call from Linda, her adoptive mother. Sarah, I saw the news about Hope Haven. You need to fix this or you're letting those kids down, Linda said, her voice dripping with judgment. Sarah clenched her fist, memories of Linda's coldness during her childhood flooding back. I'm handling it, she muttered, hanging up. Turning back to Ethan, she made a split-second decision that would change everything. Fine, Mr. Caldwell. You want to talk? Then you're going to help me save Hope Haven. Starting now. The hospital cafeteria was a chaotic mix of clattering trays and overworked staff, but Sarah and Ethan found a quiet corner to strategize. Sarah laid out the situation. Hope Haven housed 30 kids, many with nowhere else to go, and Caldwell Enterprises' plan to turn the land into a luxury shopping district threatened their future. Your company offered market price, but that's not enough. Those kids need a home, not a check, Sarah said, her voice fierce. Ethan listened, his usual boardroom composure replaced by genuine interest. What do you propose? He asked. Sarah hesitated, then blurted out, I told the press, you're my fiancé. It's the only way to get leverage. Ethan's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. You did what Sarah winced but stood her ground. The media loves a story. If they think the CEO of Caldwell Enterprises is engaged to a doctor fighting for an orphanage, they'll eat it up. It'll buy us time to stop the demolition. Ethan stared at her, a mix of disbelief and amusement crossing his face. You're bold, I'll give you that. But why should I play along? Sarah leaned in, her eyes locked on his. Because if you don't, I'll make sure every news outlet in Chicago knows you're tearing down a home for orphans. Your call, Mr. Caldwell. Ethan could have walked away. He was a man used to calling the shots, not being cornered by a fiery doctor with a cause. But something about Sarah, her passion, her fearlessness, intrigued him. All right, Dr. Bennett, I'm in. But if we're doing this, we do it right. They shook hands, the deal sealed, though neither realized how deeply it would entangle their lives. By afternoon, Sarah's impulsive lie had spread like wildfire across Chicago's news channels. Billionaire Ethan Caldwell, engaged to local doctor, fighting to save orphanage. Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters, colleagues, and predictably, Linda and her adoptive sister, Megan. Sarah, you're engaged to a billionaire. Why didn't you tell us? Megan's voice was syrupy sweet, but Sarah knew better. Her adoptive family had always seen her as a burden, a charity case they tolerated for appearances. Now, they smelled money. It's not what you think, Sarah said curtly, hanging up before Megan could press further. Back at the hospital, Sarah faced a new challenge. Dr. Larson, thrilled by the publicity, saw dollar signs. This is perfect, Sarah. If you're tied to Caldwell, we can save the urology clinic. Get him to a fundraiser tonight. Make it public. Sarah groaned inwardly. The lie was spiraling, and she hadn't even told Ethan about the event. When she found him in the hospital lobby reviewing emails on his phone, she braced herself. There's a fundraiser tonight for the clinic. They want you there. As my fiancé. Ethan raised an eyebrow, a slow smile tugging at his lips. "You're really doubling down on this, aren't you?" Sarah shrugged, trying to hide her nerves. "You said you were in." "Prove it." Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable. "I'll be there. But don't expect me to be Prince Charming." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Don't worry, I'm not looking for a fairy tale." The fundraiser was held at a sleek downtown venue, all glass and chandeliers packed with Chicago's elite. Sarah, in a borrowed black dress that hugged her curves, felt out of place among the glittering crowd. Ethan, however, was in his element, shaking hands with politicians and CEOs, his charm effortless. When he introduced Sarah as his fiancée, the room buzzed with whispers. "She's a doctor, and fighting for an orphanage?" "How romantic," one socialite gushed. Sarah forced a smile, her stomach churning. This was a performance, nothing more. But Ethan's hand on her lower back felt disconcertingly real. As they posed for photos, a reporter cornered them. "Mr. Caldwell, is it true you're reconsidering the Hope Haven demolition because of Dr. Bennett?" Ethan's eyes flicked to Sarah, a silent question. She gave a slight nod, and he turned to the reporter. "My company's priorities are evolving. We're exploring options to preserve community assets like Hope Haven." The crowd murmured in approval, but Sarah caught a glimpse of a man in the corner. Mark Reynolds, Caldwell Enterprises vice president, his expression dark with disapproval. As the night wore on, Sarah's unease grew. Mark approached, his smile slick as oil. "Dr. Bennett, quite the power move snagging the boss. But don't think this saves your little orphanage." Sarah's blood ran cold, but before she could retort, Ethan stepped in. "Mark, if you've got something to say it to me, to you." The tension between the two men was palpable, and Sarah realized Ethan's company wasn't as united as it seemed. Later, as they left the venue, Ethan pulled her aside. "Mark's ambitious. He's pushing the demolition hard. If we're going to pull this off, we need to be convincing." Sarah nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we keep up the act. But Ethan, I need to know you're not just playing me." He met her gaze, his voice low. "I'm not the enemy, Sarah. Let's save your kids." For the first time, she believed him. Back at her small apartment, Sarah couldn't sleep. The day's events replayed in her mind: Ethan's unexpected alliance, the fundraiser's success, and the looming threat of Mark and her adoptive family. Her phone lit up with the text from Megan. "Heard you're engaged to Caldwell. Don't forget who raised you, Sarah. We expect an invitation." Sarah's grip tightened on the phone. Linda and Megan had never cared about her, only what she could provide. Now, with Ethan's name in play, they'd be relentless. She thought of the kids at Hope Haven, their laughter echoing in her memories, and steeled herself. This fake engagement was her weapon, and she'd wield it to protect what mattered. As dawn broke over Chicago, Sarah knew one thing: she'd started a game she couldn't afford to lose, and Ethan Caldwell, whether friend or foe, was her only ally. The Chicago skyline glittered under a late September dusk, its lights reflecting off the glassy surface of Lake Michigan as Sarah Bennett adjusted her scarf and stepped into the chilly evening. It had been 2 weeks since her impulsive decision to claim Ethan Caldwell as her fiancé, and the lie had grown legs sprinting across Chicago's gossip columns and social media. Local Dr. Snaggs billionaire in fight for orphanage screamed one headline, complete with a grainy photo of her and Ethan at the hospital fundraiser, his hand resting on her back. Sarah's life had become a whirlwind of scrutiny, with reporters hounding her at St. Mary's Hospital and her adoptive family Linda and Megan circling like vultures. But tonight wasn't about them. It was about a charity gala at the Art Institute of Chicago where Sarah and Ethan had to sell their fake engagement to a room full of the city's elite, all while dodging the growing threat of Mark Reynolds Caldwell Enterprises' scheming vice president. Sarah arrived at the gala in a sleek emerald gown borrowed from a friend and far fancier than anything she'd ever owned. Her nerves jangled as she scanned the crowd, spotting Ethan near a lion statue, his black tuxedo accentuating his broad shoulders. He caught her eye and nodded, his expression unreadable but steady, like a lighthouse in her storm. "You clean up nice, Dr. Bennett," he said, offering his arm. Sarah smirked, trying to mask her unease. "Don't get used to it, Caldwell. This is all for show." They entered the grand hall where chandeliers cast a golden glow over tables draped in white linen. The gala was a fundraiser for Chicago's underfunded clinics, including Sarah's urology department, and Dr. Larson had practically begged her to leverage Ethan's presence for donations. "Make him look invested," Larson had said. "We need his name to keep us afloat." Sarah felt the weight of that responsibility, but her real focus was Hope Haven, the orphanage still under threat from Caldwell Enterprises' development plans. As they mingled, Ethan played the doting fiancé with alarming ease, his charm disarming even the most skeptical donors. Sarah's passion for her patients and those kids at Hope Haven is why I'm here, he told a group of philanthropists, his hand brushing hers in a way that sent an unexpected jolt through her. Sarah forced a smile, her mind racing. Was he acting, or was there something real behind his words? The crowd ate it up, pledging thousands to the clinic, but Sarah's stomach churned when she spotted Mark Reynolds across the room, his sharp eyes locked on them. Mark, with his slicked back hair and predatory grin, had been pushing the Hope Haven demolition hard, and Sarah suspected he saw her as a threat to his ambitions. "Ethan," she whispered, leaning close under the guise of affection. "Mark's watching us. He's up to something." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone light. "Let him watch. We've got this." The evening took a darker turn when Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Megan. "Saw you on TV, sis. You're living the high life now. When's our cut?" Sarah's grip tightened, her adoptive sister's greed a familiar sting. Linda and Megan had been calling non-stop, demanding money and invitations to meet Ethan, their voices dripping with entitlement. Sarah had spent her childhood in their cold, calculating household, always the outsider, and now they saw her fake engagement as a golden ticket. She deleted the text, but the unease lingered. As she and Ethan posed for photos, a reporter from the Chicago Tribune cornered them. "Mr. Caldwell, rumors say you're reconsidering the Hope Haven project because of Dr. Bennett. Any truth to that?" Ethan glanced at Sarah, his blue eyes searching. She gave a subtle nod, and he turned to the reporter. "My company is exploring all options to balance progress with community needs. Sarah's shown me what's at stake." The answer was diplomatic, but Sarah caught Mark's scowl from the sidelines, his hand gripping a champagne flute a little too tightly. Later, as they stepped onto the dance floor for a waltz, part of the gala's tradition, Ethan pulled Sarah close, his voice low. "Mark's not just ambitious. He's got allies on the board who want me out. This engagement stunt, it's making him nervous." Sarah's heart raced, not just from his words, but from the warmth of his hand on her waist. "Good," she murmured. "Let him squirm. But we need to be careful. He's not above playing dirty." As they swayed to the music, Sarah's mind flashed to Hope Haven's kids, little Mia, who loved drawing, and Jamal, who dreamed of being a pilot. She couldn't let them down, not when Mark's plans threatened their home. The dance ended, and Ethan led her to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. "Dora." I looked into the demolition plans, Mark's pushing them behind my back using my name. "I didn't authorize this. Sarah's eyes widened. Then stop him. You're the CEO. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. It's not that simple. The board's watching my every move. If I push too hard without proof, I look weak. Sarah crossed her arms. So what? We keep pretending until you figure it out. Ethan met her gaze, his voice firm. We keep pretending until we win. The next morning, Sarah was back at St. Mary's, bleary-eyed from a sleepless night. The gala had raised enough to keep the urology clinic running for another quarter. But the victory felt hollow, with Hope Haven still at risk. Emily, her nurse, greeted her with a stack of patient files and a worried look. Sarah, your mom and sister were here earlier. They wanted to see you, said it was urgent. Sarah's stomach dropped. What did they want? Emily hesitated. They mentioned Ethan and money. I told them you were busy. Sarah nodded, her jaw tight. Linda and Megan's sudden interest in her life was no coincidence. They'd seen the news and smelled opportunity. She was about to head to her office when her phone rang with an unknown number. Dr. Bennett, this is Rachel Lee, a reporter with the Sun-Times, a crisp voice said. I've got a tip that your engagement to Ethan Caldwell is a sham, and your family's ready to talk. Care to comment? Sarah's blood ran cold. Linda and Megan were selling her out, likely for a payout. No comment, she snapped, hanging up. She needed to warn Ethan, but before she could dial, Dr. Larson burst in. Sarah, we've got a problem. Someone leaked to the press that you're faking your engagement to save the clinic. The board's furious. Sarah's world tilted. She raced to Ethan's downtown office, a sleek tower bearing the Caldwell Enterprises logo. He was in a meeting, but his assistant Claire ushered her in. Ethan sat at a mahogany desk, his expression grim as he reviewed documents. Sarah, what's wrong? He asked, standing as she entered. She didn't waste time. My family's talking to the press, saying our engagement's fake. And someone, probably Mark, leaked it to the hospital board. They're threatening to fire me. Ethan's eyes darkened, his mind clearly racing. Mark's playing hardball. He's trying to discredit us both. Sarah paced, her frustration boiling over. I didn't sign up for this to lose my job, Ethan. We need to fight back. Ethan nodded, his voice steady. We will. I've got my team digging into Mark's dealings. If he's bypassing me on the demolition, there's a paper trail. Sarah stopped, her eyes meeting his. And my family. They'll keep talking unless we shut them up. Ethan's lips quirked in a half-smile. Then we give them something else to talk about. Let's make this engagement too real to question. That evening, Ethan proposed a bold move, a public appearance at a community event for Hope Haven, where they'd double down on their love story. Sarah agreed, though her heart pounded at the thought of lying to the kids she cared about. At the event, held in a park near the orphanage, Sarah and Ethan handed out toys to the children, cameras flashing as they laughed with Mia and Jamal. Ethan, to Sarah's surprise, was a natural, tossing a football with the older kids and listening to their dreams. You're good with them, she said quietly as they took a break. Ethan shrugged, his eyes distant. I grew up in foster care before I was adopted. I know what it's like to need a home. Sarah's breath caught, seeing him in a new light. But the moment was shattered when Linda and Megan appeared, their faces plastered with fake smiles. Sarah, darling, we're so proud of you, Linda cooed loud enough for the cameras. Megan chimed in, yes, sis, you and Ethan are perfect together. Sarah's fists clenched, but Ethan stepped forward, his voice smooth. Good to meet Sarah's family. We're all about supporting Hope Haven, right? The crowd cheered, but Sarah saw the glint in Megan's eyes, greed, not love. As the event ended, Sarah pulled Ethan aside. They're not here for me. They want your money. Ethan's expression hardened. Then we'll beat them at their own game. But Sarah, we need to be ready. Mark's not done, and he's got more power than you think. The crisp October air swept through Chicago's Millennium Park, where a massive charity concert for urban youth programs was in full swing, the stage lights casting a kaleidoscope of colors over the cheering crowd. Dr. Sarah Bennett stood backstage, her heart pounding, as she adjusted the mic clipped to her navy blazer. Tonight was more than a fundraiser for Hope Haven. It was a make-or-break moment to solidify her and Ethan Caldwell's fake engagement in the public eye and counter the growing rumors threatening her job and the orphanage. Ethan, in a tailored navy suit that matched her outfit, stood beside her, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to her nerves. "You ready for this?" he asked, his blue eyes scanning her face. Sarah forced a nod, though her stomach churned. "As ready as I'll ever be. Just don't expect me to sing." Ethan's lips twitched in a rare smile. "Don't worry, I'll handle the charm. You just keep being you." Their plan was simple: present a united front, announce a donation to Hope Haven, and shut down the whispers about their sham engagement. But with Mark Reynolds, Caldwell Enterprises' scheming vice president, and Sarah's adoptive family, Linda and Megan, circling like sharks, the night felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. The past week had been a nightmare. The Chicago Sun-Times had published a scathing article fueled by Linda and Megan's anonymous tips questioning Sarah's motives and calling her engagement a publicity stunt to save her urology clinic. Dr. Larson, her department head, had called her into his office, his face red with frustration. "Sarah, the board's breathing down my neck. If this engagement is fake, you're risking all our jobs." Sarah had stood her ground, insisting it was real, but the doubt in Larson's eyes lingered. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds had escalated his attack, leaking internal Caldwell Enterprises memos that suggested Ethan was soft on the Hope Haven demolition, undermining his authority with the board. Sarah knew Mark was behind the leaks, but proving it was another matter. Ethan had his team digging for evidence, but time was running out. Tonight's concert was their chance to turn the tide. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Mark had something sinister up his sleeve. As the concert's headliner, a local indie band, finished their set, the MC called Sarah and Ethan to the stage. The crowd roared as they stepped into the spotlight. Hands clasped the picture of a devoted couple. Sarah's throat tightened, but she forced a smile, waving to the sea of faces. Ethan took the mic, his voice steady and commanding. "Thank you, Chicago, for supporting our city's kids. As many of you know, Hope Haven Orphanage is close to our hearts. That's why Caldwell Enterprises is pledging $500,000 to ensure those kids have a home." The crowd erupted, but Sarah's eyes caught a familiar figure in the VIP section, Mark Reynolds. His arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. She leaned toward Ethan, whispering, "He's here and he's not happy." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure, wrapping an arm around her waist for the cameras. "Let him stew. We've got this." But as they stepped off stage, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check the news. Your fiancé's not who you think." Her blood ran cold as she opened a link to a breaking story. Caldwell Enterprises authorizes Hope Haven demolition, signed by Ethan Caldwell. Sarah's knees buckled, but Ethan caught her arm, his eyes narrowing as he read over her shoulder. "That's not my signature," he growled, pulling out his phone to call his assistant, Claire. "Find out who forged this and how it got out. Now." Sarah's mind raced. The document looked real company letterhead. Ethan's name in bold, but the timing was too convenient. "Mark," she said, her voice low, "he's framing you to make it look like you betrayed me." Ethan nodded, his expression grim. He's trying to turn the public against us and force the board's hand. We need to expose him before this spreads." But before they could strategize, Linda and Megan appeared, weaving through the backstage crowd with fake tears in their eyes. "Sarah, how could you let this happen?" Linda wailed loud enough for nearby reporters to turn. "You're engaged to a man who's destroying those kids' home," Megan chimed in, clutching Sarah's arm. "We're your family. Sarah, we just want what's best." Sarah yanked her arm free, her voice sharp. "You want a paycheck. Stay out of this." But the damage was done. Cameras flashed, capturing the family drama for tomorrow's headlines. Back at St. Mary's the next morning, Sarah faced a firestorm. Reporters camped outside the hospital shouting questions about her failed engagement and the demolition order. Dr. Larson called an emergency meeting, his face pale. "Sarah, the board's suspending you pending an investigation. This scandal's tanking our reputation." Sarah's heart sank, but she refused to back down. "It's a lie, and I can prove it." "Give me time." Larson sighed, unconvinced. "You've got 48 hours, or you're out." Desperate, Sarah called her friend Rachel Lee, the Sun-Times reporter who'd warned her about the leaks. Over coffee in a quiet diner, Rachel slid a folder across the table. "I dug into Mark Reynolds's emails. He's been communicating with a board member pushing for the demolition and planting stories to discredit Ethan. There's no hard proof he forged the document, but this is a start." Sarah's eyes scanned the printouts, her resolve hardening. "This is enough to work with." "Thanks, Rachel." She texted Ethan, who agreed to meet her at his office to plan their next move. Ethan's office was a fortress of glass and steel, but the tension inside was palpable. Claire, his assistant, had uncovered more. Mark had been meeting with developers who stood to profit from the Hope Haven land, bypassing Ethan's authority. "He's betting I'll look weak if I cancel the project," Ethan said, pacing. "But if I push back without evidence, the board will side with him." Sarah slammed the folder on his desk. "Then we get the evidence. Rachel's got leads, but we need to go public with something big, something Mark can't twist." Ethan's eyes lit up. "The orphanage. We hold an event there, invite the press, and show Chicago we're fighting for the kids. If Mark's behind the forgery, he'll slip up under pressure." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "I'll get the kids and staff ready. But Ethan, my family's still a problem. They're talking to anyone who'll pay." Ethan's expression softened. "Let me handle them. Focus on the kids." The event at Hope Haven was set for the next evening, a family day, to showcase the orphanage's importance. Sarah spent the day with the kids, helping them paint signs and rehearse a song for the press. Little Mia tugged at her sleeve, her big eyes worried. "Sis, are they really gonna take our home?" Sarah knelt, forcing a smile. "Not if I can help it, kiddo." But her confidence wavered when Linda and Megan showed up uninvited, their faces plastered with fake concern. "We're here to support the kids," Linda said loudly, posing for a photographer. Sarah's blood boiled, but she kept her cool, knowing any outburst would fuel their narrative. As the event began, Ethan arrived in a low-key SUV, not his usual Maybach, a deliberate choice to blend in. He spoke to the crowd, his voice earnest. "Hope Haven is more than a building, it's a family. Caldwell Enterprises is committed to finding a solution that keeps these kids safe." The crowd cheered, but Sarah noticed Mark lurking near the back, whispering to a man in a suit she didn't recognize. As the kids performed their song, Rachel pulled Sarah aside, her face grim. "I got a tip. Mark's planning to release a new document tonight claiming Ethan approved the demolition months ago. It's fake, but it's convincing." Sarah's heart raced. "We need to stop him now." She found Ethan, who was helping Jamal with a basketball hoop, and relayed the news. Ethan's eyes darkened. Then we confront him, here in front of everyone. As the event wound down, Sarah took the mic, her voice steady, despite her nerves. Chicago, we've heard rumors about Hope Haven's future. But I'm here to set the record straight. Ethan Caldwell is fighting for this place, and anyone saying otherwise is lying. She locked eyes with Mark, who stiffened. Ethan stepped forward, holding up a tablet. We've uncovered evidence of forged documents. Those responsible will be held accountable. The crowd gasped, cameras flashing, but Mark slipped away before anyone could stop him. That night, Sarah and Ethan regrouped at her apartment, exhausted but determined. Rachel's leads had paid off. Mark's emails linked him to a shady developer, and Claire had found a digital trail tying him to the forged demolition order. We've got enough to go to the board, Ethan said, his voice tired but resolute. Sarah nodded, but her thoughts drifted to the kids, to Linda and Megan's betrayal, and to the unexpected warmth she felt around Ethan. You didn't have to do this, she said softly. Why are you fighting so hard? Ethan met her gaze, his voice low. Because you showed me what matters. And because I'm starting to care about you, Sarah. Her breath caught the line between their fake engagement and something real blurring. But before she could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Megan. You're done, Sarah. We told the press everything. Sarah's heart sank, but Ethan's hand on hers steadied her. We're in this together, he said. Let's finish it. As they planned their next move, Sarah knew the fight for Hope Haven, and her heart was far from over. The golden hues of a late October sunset bathed Chicago's Lincoln Park, where a small but vibrant crowd gathered for the wedding of Dr. Sarah Bennett and Ethan Caldwell. The ceremony was set near the newly renovated Hope Haven Orphanage, its brick facade now adorned with colorful murals painted by the children. A white canopy fluttered in the breeze, strung with fairy lights, and rows of chairs held a mix of hospital staff, orphanage kids, and a few trusted reporters. Sarah stood in a simple ivory gown, her hands trembling as she clutched a bouquet of wildflowers. This wasn't the fake engagement she'd stumbled into months ago. It was real, a commitment, born from shared battles and unexpected love. Ethan, in a tailored gray suit, stood beside her, his blue eyes warm with a certainty that steadied her nerves. But as the officiant began, Sarah's gaze darted to the crowd where her adoptive mother, Linda, and sister Megan sat in the back, their forced smiles barely masking their greed. Tonight was about more than vows. It was about closing a chapter of betrayal and proving that family was built on love, not manipulation. The past week had been a whirlwind. After exposing Mark Reynolds's forged documents at the Hope Haven Family Day, Sarah and Ethan had worked tirelessly with Rachel Lee, the Sun-Times reporter, to leak evidence of Mark's schemes to the press. The Chicago Tribune ran a front-page story, Caldwell Enterprises VP, caught in forgery scandal, orphanage saved. Mark was ousted from the company, his allies on the board scrambling to distance themselves. Ethan had seized the moment, announcing a $2 million grant to rebuild Hope Haven, complete with new classrooms and a playground. The public adored the story of the billionaire and the doctor uniting for a cause, but Sarah's adoptive family remained a thorn in her side. Linda and Megan had doubled down, selling lies to tabloids about Sarah's gold-digging motives, even as their bank accounts were frozen for investigation into their shady financial dealings. Sarah had ignored their calls, focusing instead on the kids Mia Jamal and the others who saw her as their hero. But now, at her wedding, they were here, and Sarah knew they'd try to ruin it. As the officiant spoke of love and commitment, Ethan squeezed Sarah's hand, his voice low. You okay? She nodded, forcing a smile, just waiting for the inevitable drama. Sure enough, as they exchanged rings, simple gold bands a nod to their grounded bond, Linda stood, her voice cutting through the quiet. This is a disgrace. Sarah's no family to us after betraying her own. Megan joined in tears, streaming for effect. She's using Ethan for his money, just like she used us. The crowd gasped, cameras clicking, but Sarah's heart didn't waver. She'd expected this. Before she could respond, Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. Enough. Sarah's family is here. The kids of Hope Haven, her colleagues, and me. You've got no place in this. The crowd murmured in support, and little Mia ran up, hugging Sarah's legs. You're our family, sis, she chirped, drawing laughter and applause. Linda and Megan shrank back, their faces red as security escorted them out. The ceremony continued, and as Sarah and Ethan said, "I do," the crowd erupted in cheers. The kids from Hope Haven led a procession to the orphanage for the reception, where a ribbon-cutting ceremony marked its official reopening. Ethan took the mic, his arm around Sarah. "This place taught me what family means," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Sarah showed me how to fight for it, and together we're building a future for these kids." He gestured to the new playground where Jamal was already testing the swings, laughing wildly. Sarah spoke next, her voice steady. "Family isn't about who raises you, it's about who stands by you. Hope Haven. Ethan and all of you are my family now." The crowd roared, and Rachel Lee in the front row gave Sarah a proud nod, her article already drafted to celebrate the victory. As the reception unfolded with music and dancing, Sarah pulled Ethan aside, the city skyline twinkling behind them. "We did it," she whispered, her eyes shining. "The kids are safe, Mark's gone, and my so-called family's out of my life." Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You did it, Sarah. I just followed your lead." She laughed, the weight of months lifting. "You're not so bad for a billionaire." They kissed, the moment private, despite the crowd sealing a bond forged in truth. The kids swarmed them, dragging them to the dance floor, and Sarah felt a peace she hadn't known since childhood. Later, as the stars emerged, Sarah addressed the guests one last time. "Life's taught me a few things," she said, her voice carrying over the chatter. "Honesty, even when it's hard, builds trust. Family is who you choose, those who lift you up, not tear you down. And if you've got power or privilege, use it to help others like these kids who deserve a chance." The crowd nodded, some wiping tears, as the message sank in. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, whispering, "You're changing lives, Dr. Bennett." She smiled, leaning into him. "We're changing lives, Mr. Caldwell." The night ended with fireworks over the park, the kids squealing as colors lit the sky. Sarah looked at Ethan, the orphanage, and the community around her, realizing she'd found her true home. The lesson was clear: truth and love triumph over greed, and real family is built on heart, not blood. As Hope Haven's lights glowed, Sarah knew she'd not only saved a home, but found one for herself.